Welcome back. So we're going to make a lot of changes this video, and I have to do some pasting because else it'll just take me too long with my slow fingers to actually write up the stuff that I want to show you guys. So we're going to make a lot of changes this time, and the first thing we want to change is actually we want to remove the try catch again. I'll get those back in there, but right now they are not making value because I wanted to now make our program so that instead of as before where we only get an exception and we're thrown out of it, I wanted to keep asking me type in a proper number, put in an integer until I actually do it. And we'll do that in kind of the same way where we first tried the while loop, just a bit more complex than what we had that time. So let's clean this up a bit. I want to kind of try to get things lined up here, and then I want to kind of make it so that I can see this is for all of this is for the first number, all of this is for the second number, and this is for adding the number, for swapping. Let's just remove that for now. I'll get that back. And now we have a pretty clean program right here. And the first thing I want to change is the way that we get the first number. And let's just paste in some code here, and now it gets a little bit scary. There's a lot of stuff that came in there to our code, but let's just have a look at it because it's really not that complex. So step by step here. The first thing that I added instead of the old code, which looked something like this, input, read line, pass line, that's what I'm removing. And then we are getting this instead, a number. This is just a variable that I need to keep asking if we actually got a real integer value. I have better ways of doing this. I'll show you that in the next lesson, but this is how we have to do it if we want to do it the old way with the int pass. So what I'm saying is, as long as I haven't found a number yet, keep running the while loop. Remember, it starts as false, but the while loop will say it's not true. As long as it's not a number, that's what I'm trying to say, and that's true in the beginning because this is false, then it will go in here and execute the code in here. That's one thing I need to tell you. The second local variable I made right here is because I need to have the file first input as int outside of the while loop because I need to use it outside. Notice the while loop begins here and ends here, but I want to print it all the way down here on its own. So that's outside of the while loop. That's why I'm kind of making a local variable right here for the first input. So that's the two things. Now the next thing we need to do is, as we get into the loop the first time, we're going to print something to the user. Input your first number. We're going to ask the user to, the system to grab whatever he writes us. We're going to try and pass that right here. That's why we try to pass it. If it succeeds, if everything goes well, we don't get an exception, then we set a number equal true, meaning that we are done. So now this gets to be true, and we can jump over to the next question. If something exception pops up, we just print out that's not an integer, please try again, and the while loop will start over. Try again, start over, right? Let's try and run this with the debugger. So I'll try and add the debugger in here. I'll try to say start the console application. So I get in here the first time because notice that this guy is false on its own, but when I say not a number, that will actually turn into true, right? So it's because I'm using the not sign in front of it. So I get in here, the while loop is true, so you have to go into the brackets here. I say step over, boop. It says write the line to the console log. So if I go back and look at the command prompt here, it says input your first number and waits for me to give it a number. If I jump over this guy right here, it says put in the number, and I'll put in F, which is FD, which is not a number. I'll press enter. It goes into the try, and when I step over here, it'll go and pass that FD, and it'll hopefully throw an exception. Now the exception is a format exception down here, and that actually means that we're going to hit the that's not actually an integer, please try again. Going back to the loop, and now this has not been set to true, so this combined again is still true, right? Because it's still false. False, not false equals true. I have to learn that. And I go back and I ask for a new input number, and I ask for a new console line. And that will happen again. Write DD this time, press enter, same problem, that's not an integer, so I'll go down and catch it. Stepping over here, coming back, trying again, asking for input, and then I'll write a number this time. I'll press enter. And now the try won't fail. Let's see what happens. The try didn't fail. It converted a number into true, and it actually this number is now true, so if I combine these two this time, it'll actually give me false, meaning that I'll leave the while loop when I get up there, step over, get to the while loop, skip the while loop because everything is true now, and now it pops up with the second question, which we haven't solved yet, so add the second input string. That's how the code works. That was the changes we have to do. See you in the next lesson where we'll do it a bit differently for the second input. Have fun.